both still in the top 5. So do you see any reason why people are so down on USC, and will there be some value on them this year?
I think that Athlon ranking's a little bit too low for USC, but I do think that there are a lot of questions about USC. It's not a team that I'd want to jump out and just bet in the first game no matter what, because I kind of want to see what they do. I want to see what kind of pace they play at with the new signal caller. I think they should rely on the run game a little more. I don't know why they wouldn't. I think their defense is going to be better. I probably would look to play unders here if we can get some value. I think USC is still a good team. They're just not quite what they were before. Before USC was one of those teams that, they were going to be in the top 5, top 6, no matter what. They were going to be a national title contender. Now they're just a very good team that probably isn't quite good enough to win a national title.
Yeah, definitely. And with such young quarterbacks this year, only returning, less than 50% production, it's looking like it. I can't necessarily pick them for a top 10 finish this year, but I don't know if I'd bet against them because they certainly know how to recruit. Pretty tough schedule at Texas this year. They got, obviously, Notre Dame at the end of the year as usual. So sitting at their season win total of 9, I suppose I personally would lean to the under. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't have any strong opinion here. I think 9's a good number. I mean, it's a fairly difficult schedule, especially their road games. At Utah, a tricky game for sure. At Arizona, no layup. At Stanford, at Texas. I think USC is a team that could upset some people this year. It wouldn't surprise me at all, but they'll also get upset several times. So I think they'll be inconsistent.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're going to, like you said, rely on the run, and we don't know if the teams are going to stack the box and how that's going to all pan out. So we'll see how that one develops for USC. So I suppose the next best team would be Utah. What do we got for Utah this year?
Utah, it's a team that went 7-6 last year. Just kind of middle of the road last year. I have to say, I think Kyle Whittingham's a really good coach too. Now, I do remember the game against Washington. I'm sure you know which one I'm going to say here. The Kyle Whittingham's wild decision against in that game against Washington. I don't know what he was thinking.
Oh my God!
I have no idea.
Oh.
I know some people said he needs to be fired right away. He is a good coach. He's done a good job for many years. I can't defend that decision, but he's a good coach. He does a really good job with the offensive and defensive line. Utah has a tremendous home field advantage. I think it's definitely the best home field advantage in this conference. You play at altitude there. Really good fan base. I think Utah could be a little better than some people expect this year. I think Huntley has big potential on offense. If he could take care of the ball a little bit better than he did last year, this offense could be good. The running backs are good. They only converted on 35.23% of third downs last year. That was worse than the Pac-12. I think that'll be better this year. I think this offense is going to be a little bit more explosive. Defensively, the pass rush at Utah is always really good. Last year was one of their worst ones they've had, only getting 25 sacks. In some of the years in the past, they've had 43, 55 sacks. I think they'll be really good rushing the passer again this year. The secondary has a lot of depth. Again, not the top end talent of a Washington or USC. I think this defense will be really good though. And one thing that I have to point out that I haven't necessarily been saying about other teams, Utah has some excellent special teams, and that is going to win them a game or two. When you're doing your handicapping for these games, make sure you look at special teams. The field position game, the kickers, kick return teams, very important. And Utah is going to win a game or two because of their special teams this year.
Yeah, and if you're not going to be high on USC, you have Utah sitting there at plus 425 to win the Pac-12 South, so coming for such a young USC team, that doesn't seem like too bad of value if you want to look in that direction. Definitely love their home field advantage, like you said, and definitely going to be one of the teams to watch, I think, in the Pac-12 this year. Well, that brings up...
Yeah, I was going to ask you... Sorry, I was going to ask if you were looking at my notes or something, because Utah was one of them that I like as far as the futures play here. But I like Utah quite a bit. I think it's plus 425, plus 430 even. So I think that's a pretty good value. You know, Pac-12 South is pretty wide open. Plus 430, I'll take that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're probably the next best for sure. But not too far behind them is the Arizona Wildcats, but there's definitely some question marks this year. But Khalil Tate is one of the top Heisman favorites this year. And after people seeing how he played quarterback last year, that's pretty much why. He's a leading rusher on that team by a lot. He's kind of Lamar Jackson-esque, I would say. What are your thoughts on Arizona and their season win total sitting around, I think, around 6.5, 7 here, actually, what I'm seeing?
Arizona, to me, a team that'll be a lot of fun to watch. The defense seems to be a little bit better. You know, new offensive coordinators, Noel Mazzoni, he's done a good job as offensive coordinator. I'm going to assume that this Arizona offense is going to be really good again. The offensive line is young, so we'll see what the offensive line does. They need to be good enough. It always worries me a little bit when the offensive line is the big question mark, and that's certainly the question mark for Arizona's offense. And then when you switch over to the defense, Marcel Yates stays as the defensive coordinator. I'm a little bit surprised this unit hasn't been better than they've been since he did so well at Boise State. Maybe that was more about Boise State than it was about Marcel Yates, but the strength of this defense should be the secondary. Run defense, just middle of the road, not that great. The pass rush needs to be better too, so they don't have to send a big blitz to get pressure on the quarterback, because it can really put us in the secondary in a bad spot. I think the defense will be a little bit better. Arizona is a team that I'm just going to wait and see on them. I won't have any bets on them as far as season win totals or futures, and I just want to see how they look under the new coaching staff.
Yeah, you know, and one thing about Arizona is I kind of like how their schedule did line up for them. I believe they get USC at home, don't they, this year?
Yes.
And some of the main games here, they don't have too bad of a non-conference schedule. I think they play Houston.
BYU.
Yeah, we remember how bad BYU was last year.
Right.
And they returned their production, but is that a good thing, right? You know, I mean, if they were really that bad last year. And so Arizona's schedule kind of lined up for them to have an opportunity there. And that's why I think they're actually at plus 400 here to win that side of the Pac-12. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you might want to wait on Arizona. Pick which one you like more, Arizona or Utah, plus 400. I think that, if you're looking at this conference and you're breaking it down as the Pac-12 South Open, you probably don't want to take two teams that are that, highly rated, I guess I would say. But I think that one of those teams would make a good bet here.
Yeah, okay. I definitely see what you're saying. So USC obviously still, the favorite in that, probably around at plus 150. So that definitely tells you something. Let's move on to Colorado, I suppose. UCLA and Colorado right there, but I think Colorado might be a little bit better. Let's look at their 5.5 season win total from what I'm seeing. What are your thoughts on Colorado?
I've seen a lot of different win totals on Colorado. I've seen a 4.5, I've seen a 5, 5.5. So definitely shop around. If you don't shop around to try to get the best number, you're doing yourself a disservice. To me, Colorado are one of the most disappointing teams in the country last year. I know they lost a decent amount of production from the year before, and they weren't going to go, 10-4 the year before. You go 5-7 their last year. It makes me wonder if they lost a little bit of the fire after they finally had that breakout season. They were 2-7 in Pac-12 play last year, and really they weren't very close. Mm-hmm. If you look at just what they return, they have only 10 returning starters. So this is a team that still has a big turnover. To me, the big problem with Colorado is their defense. Elliott, who's the defensive coordinator here, I don't like to bash people too much, so I just say that I don't think he's a very good hire. I think it's tough to sell Levitt's shoes, and I don't think he did a very good job last year. And we'll see what he does this year, but my problem with him is he got rid of that aggressive style of defense that worked so well. I know he didn't have near as much talent, but instead Colorado wants to bend but don't break last year. They had only 54 tackles for a loss and allowed 6.1 yards per play. I just think that that's not the style of defense that's going to win them games consistently in the Pac-12. The defensive line is the biggest weakness. I don't think the defense is going to be very good. I think Montez, quarterback, is a pretty good quarterback, is a veteran guy at this point as a junior. To me, this is a Colorado team that this is going to tell us a lot this season, because Colorado had a great year 2 years ago. They slipped back to being not a very good team last year. Let's see what was a fluke. Was a fluke 2 years ago when they won 10 games, or was it last year when they dropped back to 5?
No doubt. In 2016, they allowed 21.7 points a game. Pretty good for the Pac-12 there. And then definitely dropped back to 28.2. Right when you thought the Buffs were coming back, they decided to pull this on everyone. So definitely going to be interesting to watch this team. Well, that leaves us with Chip Kelly and UCLA. Great hire by UCLA, but is it enough to make an impact in year one? Season win total sitting at 5.5.
Yeah, UCLA, to me, like I said, Chip Kelly, a really good hire. I mean, I think he'll do a good job here. He'll be really good at recruiting. Huge upside. Lots of expectations here, though. Honestly, I was hoping this win total was going to be higher because I wanted to take the under for UCLA at 5.5, the under -125. I wish I could get a 6. I might take under 5.5. We'll see. I got to think about that one some more. To me, UCLA has some major question marks. I mean, they have some big name recruits at quarterback, but none of them have proven anything on the field. The running game has been awful the last couple of years, and everybody at UCLA knows their offensive line is really bad. I read some quotes about how Kelly wants to help cover up the glaring weakness at offensive line with fast tempo. I don't know if that works very well. Are you really going to be able to cover up the fact that you can't block with playing really fast? Maybe if you get quick passes out there, that's about the best thing you can do. But I don't think this offense is that good. They're only okay. And injuries last year, a lot of the young guys played. That should help them some this year. They have a new defensive coordinator who's with Chip Kelly at Oregon. The defense, to me, probably should be better than they were last year, but they were so bad last year. I mean, they gave up 36.6 points per game last year. So we talk about some improvement. I don't think that this UCLA defense will be very good. If you look at their schedule is brutal. I mean, this UCLA schedule is about as tough as it gets. At Oklahoma, at Oregon, Arizona State. I mean, they've got even Fresno State's not an easy game in the non-conference. Washington at home, Arizona, Utah, USC, Stanford. They didn't miss any of the best teams. So to me, UCLA, a really, really tough schedule. And I think that this would be a bad year to grade Chip Kelly on the job he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Fresno State was no cakewalk. Oklahoma, that's a very hard non-conference schedule here. So change the system. Chip Kelly likes to spread it out, play fast. I agree with you. Without an offensive line, I don't know. I don't see how you can do that. You'd be just chucking the ball after a 3-step drop every single time. That's going to become somewhat predictable. I don't see UCLA necessarily getting to that 5.5 team win total. So love your breakdown on them this year. But I'll tell you, and this, Chip Kelly with the man's record and how good he's done, 3 years down the road, you can expect to see this team competing with USC. So I can't wait till that develops and see how that happens. Well, that leaves us with poor Arizona State last year. They had that amazing win, like you mentioned before, against Washington, and I watched that game with my jaw on the ground. And they're sitting with a season win total at 5 with new coach Herm Edwards, very popular on ESPN, an analyst, went back to coaching. Not the greatest NFL coaching record. You can easily look that up and see. I don't even think he was up to 500 if you look at the total. What do you think about Arizona State this year?
This is a hard team to rate. This is one of the hardest, probably the hardest to power rate this year. How's Herm Edwards going to do at Arizona State? He hasn't really had a connection to college football. Mm-hmm. So that was why it was a little strange to see him get the job. I'm not necessarily saying he'll do a bad job, but it's a big risk. And